Hello to all of you viewers. I just want to introduce to you guys this book, A Remarkable Mother. It's a very good book. I haven't started reading it yet, but I would like to read you guys like the first chapter of the book. The book is written by Jimmy Carter. I'm pretty sure a lot of you have heard of this guy. All right, I'm going to go ahead and read you guys the first chapter. Well, at least most of the chapter, just to give you guys a little bit of an inside book of this what it's about. Okay, yeah. Anyways, Chapter 1: Early Family Years. Bessie Lillian Gordy was born in Chattahoochee County, Georgia, the 15th day of August 1898, and was one of the most extraordinary people I've ever seen. She was the fourth of 9 children, two of them adopted double first cousins, and was described in new reports as third cousin of United States Senators Jesse Helms and Sam Nunn, fourth cousin of Elvis Presley and mother of President Jimmy Carter. We children thought this diverse heritage partially explained her interest in politics and showmanship, but not some of her other idiosyncrasies. My mother's great-grandfather, Wilcie Gordy, was the first of his family to be born in Georgia in 1801. He was descended from Peter Gordy, who was born in Somerset County, Maryland in 1710. We have never attempted to trace the genealogy further, but some of the older kinfolks always said that the Gordys came from France. Wilson moved to West Virginia near the Chattahoochee River in the 1830s. No, sorry. Well, okay. Wilson moved to West Georgia near the Chattahoochee River in the 1830s. Soon after, the Lower Creek Indians were forced westward and land was opened to white settlers. All of his possessions were in a large hogshead with an axle through the center, which rolled down the narrow openings through virgin timber, drawn by his only horse. He soon became known as the best carpenter of what would be Chattahoochee County. Lillian's grandfather, James Thomas Gordy, was a wagon master during the Civil War and later county tax collector, and he married Harriet Emily Helms, whose parents came from North Carolina. Lillian's father was James Jackson Gordy, named after an early hero of Revolutionary War days, and he was always known as Jim Jack, a federal government revenue officer in southwest Georgia and later postmaster in Richland. He became one of the most astute political analysts in his changing communities. Mama's mother was Mary Ida Nicholson, daughter of Nathaniel Nunn Nicholson and granddaughter of Francis Nunn, whose family moved from the Carolinas to Georgia soon after the Revolutionary War. My grandfather, Jim Jack, was 13 years old when the Northern oppressors finally relinquished political and economic control of the state in 1876, and it was inevitable that there was still a legacy of North-South bitterness among the older relatives in the earliest political discussions I ever heard. Slavery was never mentioned, only the unwarranted violation of states' rights and the intrusion of the federal government in the private lives of citizens. I remember that my mother was the only one in her family who ever spoke up to defend Abraham Lincoln. I recorded some of my mother's comments about her family. First of all, let me tell you about Mama. She seemed to be real quiet, but she never let Papa push her around. For instance, Papa was quite a dandy when he was young. He was engaged to another woman in Cusetto before he even met my mother, and the wedding was all planned. I never did know of it. I never did know if it was a forced wedding or not, but when that time came, he got on the train and disappeared, leaving his bride standing at the altar. He stayed away about 3 months, then came back and started courting Mama. When they were engaged, he was 25 and she was just 17, but Mama was really feisty. She told him she wasn't going to even dress for the ceremony until she knew he was standing by and ready. She sat in a chair in the preacher's house and with her wedding dress on the bed until Papa arrived at the church next door and the preacher came over and certified that he was there. Only then she get up, put on her wedding dress, and join him for the ceremony. The newlyweds moved to a little settlement called Brooklyn, just a crossroad with about a dozen families, where Papa had his first job as schoolmaster. Mama always told us about the first meal she cooked. Papa brought home some oysters, and she said the more she boiled them, the tougher they got. Mama took care of the house, and all of us children with not much help from Papa. She had 3 children, one right after another. And then Papa's brother either was shot or killed himself. And Mama took his 2 boys, my double first cousins. They were Catholics, and we made fun of them when they knelt down to pray or said their catechism. So Mama had 5 babies at once, none old enough to go to bed without help. Then she skipped 3 years and I came along, followed by 3 more. All of us 2 are 3 years apart. My grandmother Ida was calm, a homebody, and seemed to be perfectly satisfied with her way of life. She would spend all day in the house and garden, first preparing food for a big family, getting the children off to school, and cleaning the house. Then she would put on her sunbonnet and work in the large garden, bringing a basket full of seasonal vegetables back into the house. She always cooked a big dinner at noon, including pies, cakes, or fruit puffs for a constant supply of dessert. After the dishes were washed, she would clean the kitchen, wash and iron the family's clothes, and take care of the kids coming home from school, being sure that they did their chores and completed their homework assignments. Then she had to prepare her supper, including leftovers plus a few fresh cooked items. She was up each morning at 4:30 a.m. and would light up the wood stove while Grandpa, if he was home and it was winter, would make a fire in the fireplace. On Sundays, everyone went to Sunday school and church, so Grandma had to prepare most of the large dinner in advance, maybe cooking the biscuits and fried chicken after the services were over. For one afternoon in a week, she joined some of the other ladies of the community in a quilting bee, all of them sewing while they discussed affairs of their families and the community. I can see now that hers was a complete life, not much different from that of most southern women of that time. She was proud and grateful to serve the other members of her family who more or less took her for granted, just helping the chores when she asked them. My mother told me at times when we were raised there were real hard times, but we got by. I can't remember when Mama could send me to the store to get 25 cents worth of steak, and it would feed all 9 of us. My grandmother was as wide, roving, and flamboyant as my grandmother was home-loving and quiet. He was born in 1863 near Columbus, Georgia, and taught school for several years in Brooklyn before moving 10 more miles to the larger town Richland. Jim Jack was a man's man. He was tall, slender, handsome, and always well-groomed and neatly dressed. Even on workdays, he preferred to wear a bow tie, never a pre-tied one. Jim Jack was totally committed to mastering the prevailing political situation, as his daughter, my mother, described proudly. My father could tell you pretty close to that vote man would get, not only in the county, but even in the whole state. All my life when I was a girl, until I left home to be a nurse, I saw him do this. For local elections, he would write out his predictions out of the outcomes and seal them in an envelope. The county clerk would put them in his safe and then prepare the results after votes were counted. But it was just interesting to me to see the lengths he would go to keep up with politics. They would come in droves to see him. Grandpa of necessity also demonstrated a remarkable understanding of national elections. During years that long preceded a civil service system in the United States government, he was nimble enough on his political feet to guess right in several presidential elections, shifting party allegiance to retain his appointment as postmaster in Richmond. Okay, everyone, I really appreciate you watching this video, and that's pretty much all I'm going to read from this book for now. Have a good day. Bye.